This was a video that I thought, do I do it or do I not? But I talk about my experiences with depression and you then resonate with me or not. But I haven't talked about the plus sides. And I know you're going to go, what are you on about, Rev? But what depression has given to me that I've taken away from it, all right? So for a kickoff, empathy, a lot more empathy. Once you've understood misery to the point that you've got to the point of wanting to take your own life, and I only felt like that, well, I say I only felt like that, I only got close once, and that was a long, long time ago. But when you've got that low, you understand misery into a new level. But what you also do is when you come away from it, you take away that feeling of empathy for people who are going through it. Whereas I was a young kid and I used to look at the quiet people or the miserable people and go, oh, fucking sort yourself out. I had no idea what they were going through. I was ignorant. And one of the gifts, I suppose, if you want to look at it that way, is having gone through it myself, I could look at people that are now suffering with mental health and have a better understanding of perhaps what they're going through. Although I understand depression, I understand anxiety, I understand all sorts of stuff, although not enough. Take, for instance, what I usually put my, say, for instance, I'd have eczema break out of me. And I put it down to excess drinking on the weekend. Well, I haven't drunk this weekend and it's still come out. So I'm prompt on Monday. Who knows? I think that's more down to stress because of the change of jobs and stuff. I digress. Let's go back to depression. It's given me a better understanding of music as well. When I hear something sad nowadays, whereas in the old days I might have dismissed it as miserable shit, you can actually, through the lyrics, have a better understanding of what that person was going through at the time. You feel really not sorry for them, although you do in some ways. You empathize with them. Music means a lot more to you. And you can also use music a lot more to thrash out what's going on in your head. Depression's also given me the ability to lock myself away and learn. When I don't want to face the world, I will put on the History Channel. I will look into current affairs. I will look into all sorts of stuff and soak in that information and get a better understanding of it. Depression, for me, is like a double-edged sword. When the bipolar's, and I'm high, if you want, I want to go to all the events. I want to speak to everybody. I want to do everything. But it can be quite destructive. And I'm very scatty and all over the place. On the way back down, you get to a level playing field. And then when you go below that and you go to depression, you pull yourself away and you have a good look at yourself. Sometimes the thoughts that you come away with aren't entirely accurate, but a lot of the time you will have a good look at yourself and think, wasn't happy with the way I dealt with things there. I could have done it better. And you think about people's feelings a lot more. And that's one of the things that depression's given me. And it's also given me a much bigger appreciation of the people that actually stood by me when I needed them. And it's odd to say this, but I obviously deeply love my daughter, right? But she has, no matter whether I've been up or down, come around and see me every Sunday, show me love and all the rest of it. And it makes me appreciate her even more than perhaps I would have done if I'd have just been on a level playing field. But basically speaking, that depression does put you more in touch with your own feelings. Here's another thing. Blokes don't find it easy to cry, especially not out in public, all right? But when you are incredibly low, right, and you're now using music and that to go through your feelings and stuff like this, you might be driving the truck, you might be doing something else. And when nobody's around, you can have a little tear. And crying is like the dump valve, the blow-off valve, the pressure release valve, or whatever you want to call it. It helps. And you have to get low to get to it, but it might be the one thing that releases just enough pressure to help. Women will always say that, when they're feeling shit, they'll put on a crappy film or a chick flick or whatever it is and have a good cry and they feel a lot better about it. Well, it does work. It also works with men, but men don't feel very good about doing that at all. And then after they've had a cry, some men feel bad about having had a cry. All right? Don't. All right? If you were crying out in public all the time to get attention, you could feel bad about yourself, right? But if you're having a cry because you generally have got that bad, then it's fine. That's what it's there for. We're brought up to be stiff upper lip, don't cry, be a man, and all the rest of it. Men in the past have cried. They just didn't do it out in public. Now, I don't do it very often. And I don't wail or anything like that. You just get a tear come down your cheek. And you know that you're not in a good place at the moment. It is, I suppose, because a lot of the time we just think this is normal. And we need an indicator to remind us, yes, you are in a bad way at the moment. And that way, it's so weird for people that don't have it, right? They would say, well, surely, you're depressed. But when you have, or you've lived with depression for so long, there's different variations of depression. There's slight depression, there's medium, and then there's extreme depression. When you start getting snappy and emotional and you start getting tearful, you know that things are bad, all right? But it has to get to that stage, and you have to have that happen. But I will say this, that when you are depressed, you really do enjoy music a lot more. And take, for instance, Seal. There's a couple of tunes that he does. One's Why, and I can't remember the other one. But it says, why am I changing? Why do people get complacent about the things they're told? World disasters, they come and go. And it goes on about how people that he loved before have pulled back from him and stuff like this. When you listen to this and you're depressed and you go through it, you're like, these people have done this. And you go through a process of, well, you were entitled to feel upset about that. That was a wrong. And then you look at it. And when you go through, you think about things like that and you think you've been wronged. You go down a bit more. And then all of a sudden you realize that actually these people that wronged you, after they left your life got better. And then you look at it from a different perspective and you realize that actually that was a positive thing. But you have to process this thing. And I use music personally to do it. There's a lot of things that if I hadn't processed in my life, I would still be manically depressed, right? And there's a lot of things that people do need to process in their life. Yes, something really bad happened at that point, and that was, at that point, life-changing for you. But in the grand scheme of things now, when you look at it, how would you have life been if you'd have stayed with that person, that job, that house, that situation, those family, or whatever it was? Would it have been better now? When you look at their situation now, who is around them? Are they good people? Are they bad people? Is anybody around them? Are these people positive or are they negative, right? Now, depression, when it pulls you away from stuff, gives you a chance to look at these things and think about these things. Through depression, through its thinking, I have looked at a lot of the situations in my life and realized that at the time they seemed bad, but actually now it was a gift. And life does this to you. Life gives you many things, and it also makes you feel like it takes many things. Everybody would think that the school bully was a bastard. Well, actually, if you probably talked to him, he probably had mental health problems and had suffered misery himself. But his bullying of you taught you a few things very early in life, that life isn't fair, that your phone will text you when you least want it to. Just kidding, right? But it'll also teach you how to harden up, not be a complete pussy, because there are people out there that are going to come and have a go at you. Did you enjoy it? Of course you didn't. Did it toughen you up quicker than you want to do? Yes. Did it do you some good in the end? In the long run? Probably. Taught you a hell of a lot. There are things that come along in life that at the time feel terrible, but they teach you a hell of a lot and actually are a gift. And it's weird to look at it like that. And I always look at depression as a curse and a gift. It's a bit like your brain. Your brain's the biggest gift you'll ever have. And also, depending on how your brain works, internal monologue that's always trying to give you self-doubt as well as protect you from killing yourself. That's a gift and a curse as well. And all these things you have to look at, they are a gift and a curse. And everybody thinks they're individual in this, by the way. We look at these other people that seem famous and powerful and, they've done well in their life. And you think to yourself, they don't suffer this shit. I bet you they do. I bet you these people have got more demons in there than you'd imagine. But some people are predominantly more sensitive than others. Some people are more predominantly lazy than others. I am one of these creatures. Some of the people that are given huge amounts of gifts in their life, the ability to do all sorts of things, I'm one of them, and I don't use them. And I should. And there's people there that are the hardest workers in the world, that don't have many gifts, that aren't miserable, right? That look at people who are miserable, who do have a lot going for them, and think, you wanker, I wish I was you. No, you don't. Because at the moment, that person over there that you think's got everything going for them and doesn't use it is fighting the biggest fucking demon going that you couldn't possibly comprehend. But we look at that person, right? And this is the strange thing of it. We look at that person who considers himself that doesn't have a great deal of talents, but that doesn't have the depression, as lucky. Whenever you look at somebody and you think they're better off than you, don't worry, they're not. You look at some of these famous people, Kurt Cobain and other people like that you think had it all and killed themselves. Couldn't have been that good, could it? Fame and fortune. We're always brought up to think that fame and fortune will cure all of our problems, or at least the fortune part of it. But does it? These people that move away to reinvent themselves, it doesn't work. Because the problem's with them, not the area, okay? Not the people, okay? All right, the people could be a problem. But so many times I've seen men and women go change their clothes, change their hair, change the area, and completely move away from where they were so that nobody in their new world gets to hear about what sort of a complete wanker they were in the past. And sooner or later, their true colours come out and they do it all again. And then they get to move and do it all again. They don't address the problem. The problem is themselves. My biggest problem in life has always been me. I have been the thing that's held me back. It feels like, especially when you've got depression, that you've got these, I don't know what you call them. It's like this black, it's like this character. There's no face or form or whatever. And it's just got its arms around you and you're trying to get away from it. And it's holding you back. That is your brain. That is your conscience. That is whatever going on upstairs that's holding you back. And I haven't found a way yet to get around that. I don't think I ever will. You just understand that it's there and you just keep going. But we were talking about the positives of depression. When you've come out of depression, and you do get periods of coming out of depression, not all the time, but you do. All of that you've learned, all of that you've appreciated, and all the rest of it while you were depressed, right? You can listen to that same song again while you're not depressed and understand all those feelings that you processed then. And you can nod your head and go, yeah, I get it. Yeah. And you've processed so much more. And depression does, at times, help you do that. Also doesn't help you do that, depending on what stage you're at with your depression. But for me, I've learned so much with depression that I might not have learned without it, is all I'm saying. And it's also, while you're there worrying about things in life with depression, it makes you, when you come out of it, want to do something positive to try and sort that. Take, for instance, what's going on in the world at the moment. You know, our government, Islam, when we had Brexit, all of these other things, all these things that worried me while I was in it, I would either put a video out, all right, at the time, and then when I was in a better place, go out and do some demonstrations or whatever. Now, people say, what good did it do? Well, we did get out of Europe. Not completely, but it's a lot better than what had happened, because if we'd have stayed in Europe, we would have now been part of a European army, and our borders, we would have been taking people by ferry, by train. We'd have had so many more people invade this country than we have at the moment. There's a lot more to it than that, and this isn't political, so I'll leave it at that. But it has been, as I say, a double-edged sword. And I think you do have to maybe look at yours if you have depression and think, what have I actually had or gained or learned or appreciated through having depression? Has it made me understand the person down the road who you can tell sad? Thing is, right, I don't know if you've ever done ecstasy. I only did it a few times, but it was a real positive thing in my life, and I have to say that. It turned me from when I got drunk being violent to going completely the opposite way, and it stayed like that ever since, which is great. However, the one thing about ecstasy, the moment you're on it, you don't have to be told who's on it. You know who's on it. You know the signs. I don't know how to explain it, but you just straight away, you nod at them as they're walking around the club. You know that they know, and you can understand what they're going through, and you understand the feelings, and you're happy for them because they're having a wonderful time. When you've got depression, you can spot people with depression. There's little key factors and stuff like that, and you'll go quietly and discreetly some points, you're all right, you can talk, it's fine. And if they're not too good about talking about themselves, just say, look, mate, this is what I've been going through later. It's fine. It's normal. It is part of life to get like this. And then you can open them up. And you talking to them about their problems might actually be the difference. Not just that. The fact that you can nod to them and say, I can appreciate that you've got that, means 101 things to them. But anything from, Christ, I am in a bad way. If he can see me, maybe I better do something about it. Or he can empathize with me. I'm not on my own. There's all these different things that it could mean. But these are some of the the pro parts, if I can say it like that. And I know there's many people who go, I can't believe what you're saying. There's a good side of depression. Well, nobody wants depression, but when you get depression, there are benefits to it. I mean, I wish that I could be able to turn it off, as does many people that suffer with it. But I have to say, and this is me personally, and I'm not ever telling anybody to get off medication, but when I was on medication and on alcohol at the same time, it was the biggest roller coaster in the world. And anyway, there it is. I've not given up alcohol, but I have given up the medication, although I didn't drink this weekend. Anyway, that was just a little bit about what another part about depression, because I think that, if you're going to talk about one side, you've got to talk about the other. It's a bit like what's going on over in the Middle East. Both sides are doing some fucking crazy shit at the moment. And both sides have leaders that are an arsehole. But there you go. Right, anyway, I'm going to get on, see what other news stories are around today, talk about those. And somebody said to me that, well, if you're not drinking, I was like, yeah, well, I didn't drink this weekend, but it wasn't purposeful. I just didn't fancy it. Why don't you take up a hobby? Now, I was thinking about recording virtual reality of the Mark II Escort going sideways around some Welsh and Scottish forests, and then comment on why I'm doing what I'm doing to make the car react why it does. I thought I might have a look at doing that. We'll see how it goes anyway. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments about everything, what I've talked about in here, whether you agree, disagree, or whatever. And I'll speak to you in a bit.